So thanks, Terry, for making yourself available. Really appreciate it and look forward to learning a little bit more about your business and your business journey. So
thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it.
All right. So Lyons Advantage is a project management and quantity surveying company. So I've been in or around the building industry most of my life. My family's been involved in it, and so on. So it was a bit of a natural progression to be in it myself. And about 7 years ago, my wife and I was looking at moving out of the role I was in, and there was a hole in the industry or what we perceived as a hole, and we thought, well, that's something I like. Let's go for it. It was project management plus a bunch of other services, and so we took a bit of a leap, and Lyons Advantage was established. And we're all about professional development within regional New South Wales. I think the industry itself has a lot of project managers from metro areas, and we thought, well, we can do it just as well or better than they can, and so we started trying to do that.
And 7 years on, how successful have you been?
Well, very successful. We've got my wife and I work in it full time. There's 10 to 12 staff, depending on
Wow.
what contracts we've got on. So we've got a great bunch of clients, regular clients that we have. We've got some really good government clients, local government clients. So that's state government, but then a lot of private industry that uses us repeatedly, that for their developments and so on. So I would say by any measure we're doing quite well. It is a success, and the team and Katie and I both have a lot of fun in the business. So that's there's more smiles than frowns. So that's a good idea that we're succeeding.
As somebody that's actually worked with my wife for more than 30 years, and equally seeing some of my clients try and do that, it's not necessarily as easy. It's got to be a really good fit to have a business partnership along with a personal partnership. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, I think, and you've probably done this as well, it's about having your roles right. And because I had started the business, I did a lot of, well, pretty much you do everything when you start. And Katie would do some of the books and so on, but she's come on board. She's now effectively the CEO and manages the whole business, and I do more project technical side of stuff, which is where I excel at, or try to excel. So yeah, we spent a lot of time working out our roles, and we did butt heads occasionally, but most of the time it was we just recognized that we needed to have really structured roles so that we could work together quite well. And
when you describe project management, what sort of projects are your ideal, and the stuff that you're consistently able to do and good at? What sort of?
Well, we're really fortunate to have a great team that on board with us, and so we do a lot of infrastructure work. So we've done work on dams and water infrastructure. We've worked on rural fire sheds and toilets out in the middle of like nowhere. But then we've done a lot of housing work, a lot of commercial buildings, a lot of sheds and warehousing, transport hubs. We've done a little bit of rail, working in some hospital at the moment. We've worked in jails. So it's a really broad range of clients. And because we've got such a dynamic team, it really, we can lean on each other for that experience between us, which is really, really beneficial for the company, but also to grow the team. It works quite well.
And with that list of types of work, your ideal customer is government based.
Not, we don't necessarily have an ideal one. Government is really good, but they come with their limitations as well. So a private client might be really focused on budget, as our government clients, but it's quite separate. But a government client will maybe want more paperwork, or yeah. So there is a little bit of a balance there. A lot of our private clients who we've had for, they really got us up and running. So we love working with them, and we've developed some really great relationships there. But so too have we done on the government side. So I can't really describe our ideal client. It's probably somebody who's just willing to work with us. It is quite hard to be a project manager and for the client to disappear completely and just go, yep, you go deliver that, because quite often there's a lot of feedback that you need from the client as far as budgets and so on, and design.
So 10 staff, still growing after 7 years. How would you describe business right now?
Pretty stable. I mean, we have a great team, as I've mentioned, but some of those guys get other opportunities, which we celebrate for them, because we just had one last week who he's moved to Sydney because his wife and he used to travel a lot for work, but it's more focused for his wife in Sydney now. So he's left and got a job there, which we celebrated, and he may come back at some point. But so the staffing levels have stayed about the same for about 12 months. But prior to that, like 3 years prior to that, we grew from Katie and myself, and Katie was only part-time. And, within 3 years, we went to 10 staff. So that was, I'm quite happy that we're stabilized at the moment, so we can consolidate and get our processes right. And
the impact of COVID, and what are the things that you've actually kept that you might have changed during COVID?
Look, COVID had a large impact on the construction industry, just within the supply chain, and the rising costs of materials and availability of staff to get to projects, and so we had a couple of projects in areas that were just shut down because they had a large Indigenous population, and you just couldn't go in there. So which was fine. Like we just managed around that, because you try to get the solutions to make it work for the client. Internally, we found that we do a lot of training face-to-face, or mentoring type training, where people can see how you work with a contractor and so on. And that was probably where we fell behind a little bit because of COVID, because you can't do that Zoom or a Teams meeting that well. But yeah, there was a lot of contract issues which we're still trying to sort out around that supply chain, rising costs, and these contracts that have had to be adjusted and so on to cope with that. So there's been a lot of work on that side of it.
And any of your staff will work remotely?
Yeah, so we've actually got people in Mudgee and Coffs Harbour.
Okay.
Yeah, so most of us are based in Dubbo, but we cover, at the moment, we've got people down, I think they're towards the Victorian border. I've got some projects up near the Queensland border, and we've done some out in Broken Hill, Menindee. So we sort of cover the state except for Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a large geographic area if you've actually got to get to the clients at times, or get to the projects at times. So yeah.
Yeah, we have benefited a lot from some strong networking that we've had over the years through various clients.
Yeah. Biggest business lesson since you became a business owner?
Yeah, there's probably been a couple. But one of the biggest ones, and I probably harped on it a little bit, but hiring team members based on how they fit with our team and based on how they fit with our values. So we have our values up on the wall, which is the integrity, growth, and determination. And so how they fit with that, having and a great example of this is that we've hired a couple of people from different industries and that have come across, because as most people would be aware, there's a resource shortage for qualified people. So one of our best stories is there was a guy who was a regional manager in a different industry and had no construction history, and we hired him based on his values of integrity. He had bucket loads of integrity, really willing to learn, and he was really client focused. So we really there was a lot of harmony for us with that, and we've brought him across. He's started a degree course. So over the last couple of years, he's gone from not knowing much about construction, but really knowing how to manage things. And now he's delivering some. I think he's got a $8 or $9 million project that he's delivering, and he's just doing it very professionally, very well, because he had that base of professionalism. He just needed a little bit of construction knowledge. So
more knowledge.
Yeah.
And from a other business owners' perspective, who's most inspiring to you when you see your own business community?
Look, I'm not sure. The team around us really inspires me, and being part of that team, because they come to work switched on, and that fires you up to do better, because they're looking to you for leadership as well. So that gets you working, and just their focus on trying to improve and deliver it better for us is something that inspires me to turn up every day to try to do the best I can as well.
So leaving school or university, what was it that you wanted to do?
Well, I started in an architecture degree, which I didn't finish. I did a diploma, and then I did so I worked as a draftsman. Then I worked as a quantity surveyor and did a degree in construction management. And I worked as a project management estimator at a construction company. I also did some other jobs in between those, worked for an engineer, worked in a structural steel company. So I got a very broad knowledge. But now I think all of it, and I'm sure I'm not the only person this has happened to, but the journey you go on leads to where you wanted to go without knowing in the end. So I hit project management, and that it just, you're solving problems for people, you're having relationship dialogues, and you're doing a lot of technical stuff too. So it has a real broad range, which I quite enjoy.
Employee versus business owner.
Yeah, well, that was a bit of circumstance. Where I was in the role that I was in, which I enjoyed, but there was a few changes where I was, and I didn't fit in with all those changes, which is fine. Everybody has their journey. So my wife and I sat down, and we just said, well, what is it you want to do? And we're in a decent enough position that we could have a crack. And I think just taking that leap, and it wasn't easy. The first 3 years, it was just myself and my wife. But I guess the tipping point for that was when the work there wasn't a lot of work, but we actually sat down and we did heaps of other different things. Like we did systems, like safety and quality and environmental systems, which we still do some of. We did the quantity surveying, but we also did some other services. Where we sat down and said, what's our bread and butter and what do we really enjoy? And it's project management. And it was November 2000. I'm going to have to get the date right. November 2018. And we said project management is what our core business is. And within 3 months, we were hiring people and sorry.
You're right.
Yeah, hiring people, and it was just growth from there. So as soon as we focused on it, on what we could do, instead of trying to do everything for everybody, because we were just trying to pay the bills for the first couple of years. As soon as we focused, and I think that would be quite common for a lot of businesses in our sort of service industry. As soon as we focused, it just flicked the switch, and we've grown since.
And the next question was about what have you learned along the way, and yeah, classic is the clearer you get about what you want to do, the easier it is to find it, and in fact, it'll find you a lot of the time. So yeah, awesome lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, a big lesson for me, being I would say I'm a great technician. I'm not necessarily the manager and the business leader that I could be, even though like I've got qualifications on that side, but it doesn't make you that person. But you got to let go at some point to allow the growth. You can't, hold a plant in your hand and expect it to grow any bigger than what your hand is. So I've had to let go of heaps of stuff, and we've created processes that manage that as far as, how we want things done. But yeah, in order to really grow, you have to have faith in that team and trust that they're going to do the right thing. Yeah.
And inverted commas, letting go of being the CEO. It's I with a lot of my clients, that change of persona they've got to have to actually employ somebody smarter than them. Inverted commas, absolutely classic to watch it happen.
That was easy for me because it's my wife.
Yeah, as well. So what's the future look like?
Well, we're actually building an office at the moment in Dubbo, our head office. So we'll move into that in April or May. Look, and just keep expanding. Like there is I guess, by having that geographical area, there's no real limit to what we can do. Like if we were solely within the Central West or the Dubbo region, there's a saturation point. But we've kind of positioned ourselves and got staff in some key areas that really there isn't a limit to it. Well, I mean, there's a bit of a dream to take on some of the bigger project management companies in Australia, but that's all. It's all just journey. So we'll consolidate. We're in this consolidated period now, and then we'll grow, and it all. I mean, there's a market out there that dictates some of what you do, but we can see ourselves positioned very well to grow, by X amount in the next 5 years, and that may not necessarily mean more staff. That might just mean more turnover and pay the staff more, which I'm sure they'll be happy about. But that's just about process growth and systems and so on. That we invest a lot of time and money into that so that everybody can benefit for it and we get more efficient.
And any particular challenges at the moment?
It's a good question. I mean, immediately there's some personal challenges that are always there, like the amount of time you invest in the business versus growing our child who's growing, and which we've found a much happier balances, because a couple of years ago, you're working ridiculous hours to try to get stuff done, and then that's part of that letting go, which is a lot better, and you miss less family moments. So that's always a challenge, like making sure that you're at key things and having your family. That's a big challenge. Industry wise, like the interest rate hike has an impact on the construction industry. So haven't fully seen the result of that. We're not as heavily impacted because we're not residential in the residential space. But yeah, the biggest challenges are right now is finding builders to actually carry out the works that we're project managing.
Okay.
because we've, you know, but with that interest rate hike, it will mean that there will be less work in the residential space, which may benefit the commercial space. So, yeah, it's difficult to put a finger on it, but yeah, while there are challenges, nothing's really, you know, insurmountable to do that.
And one final question: if you were to start your business again, is there anything you'd do differently?
There is. So obviously that lesson on hiring on values came from somewhere. You can read it in a book, but until you actually live it, you know, that's it entrenches the idea. Not saying that we've had no real bad experiences, but you know, there have been people who've come on board who haven't fit. And that's fine. We're a specific, you know, we're really bespoke. We're really tailored sort of project management. So it's difficult, and there's time involved in that and making sure things work. So that's one thing. Setting up the processes and systems first. You can't change that now, but had I the time, I would have done more work. And when I look back, I probably could have made the time quite comfortably, considering some of the things I did do. But yeah, but it's one of those things. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. So, you know, would you actually change anything? Probably not, because it's got us to a very good spot now. Like we've got a real great platform for future growth. We're consolidating and all that. And yes, you can learn things from other people's mistakes, but sometimes you've got to make them yourself to really know why you don't do something, or you do something. We've got to make the mistakes. Making the mistakes is the easiest way to get the lesson, inverted commas, and sometimes it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But and 5 years from now, where's the business going to be? Well, hopefully in our new office. I'm sure it's going to be finished by then. You don't have the project manager. It's like a mechanic's car. No, it's actually going quite well. 5 years from now, look, I'd hope we would have some sort of further growth. You know, maybe an extra 50-odd% staff. Obviously, the revenue going up. So some larger projects, I guess, is one of the things that is a target. So when you look at these larger project managers or project management companies, having some of those projects, like the largest project we've got is around that 30 to 40 million. So if we were in the market and able to manage and be set up well enough for our processes to manage a $100+ million project, which takes a lot of resources, you know, that would be a good spot. So that's a bit of a target, but we've also got to have the projects available in our area. Or inverted commas. In my language, that's the big, humongous, hairy, audacious goal. Get it up on the wall and share it with your team and get them working on it in their heads as well. So, well, I mean, that's part of the growth thing, is that we're probably 2 years away from being set up well enough to even look at those. So our BHAGs, I won't put it on the wall to intimidate anybody just yet. And you and your wife in 5 years, but still in the business? Look, still in the business. I won't give away her age, but I'm in my mid-40s now. So I feel like I've got plenty left to give, and we're in an environment where we can work for longer, as in, you know, I'm not dictated to by my body as much as what some other trades or people will be. But but we definitely would be winding back in maybe 10 years or so. We still got to get our son through whatever he wants to get through.
Yeah, well, it's and again, the cool part about having a business that works, inverted commas, not necessarily without you, is you can make those choices, along the way. So,
yeah,
and yeah. That's part of what I enjoy most about working with clients long term. You see the change and the difference in, I've just got to keep hammering nails to, no, I don't have to keep hammering nails. I've just got to employ more people to hammer nails for me.
Yeah. It's I guess that's why Katie is acting as is the CEO, as I'm still very technically biased and like that stuff, and I don't necessarily want to do HR, whereas she's very talented at it. And yeah, I think she's much more hands off the project side of it than what I am, and which is fine. That allows it.
The number one challenge that you said 90% of my clients, particularly when they're growing from nearly startups to your size business and bigger, the number one thing that the owners hate the most is the HR challenges. So you're not alone, because again, the technician, you've never been taught. You're never part of. I've got to have that tough conversation. Yes, you've got to have that tough conversation.
Yeah. Well, look, in my previous roles, I had plenty of those, but and I did an MBA, which gives you more training and all that stuff for it. But the benefit of hiring for the values is that you don't have too many tough conversations. So it's more around leave and just all the little things. The tough conversations we still have when we need to, but they're over time they become less and less frequent because of that value-driven employment focus. So if there was one key thing anybody wanted to ever learn about business, it's hire on values, not on qualifications.
And inverted commas, the second part of that is if it doesn't work, fire fast.
Yeah. But it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but we've had a couple of circumstances where people haven't aligned with what we needed, but they've also had the integrity, which is why they got hired in the first place, to recognize that they don't fit. So it's just been a mutual parting. We haven't had blow ups or anything like that. So that's why
deselected themselves.
Yeah, but that was part of the reason they got hired in the first place, was for their integrity. So in some ways they do align with your things, but our journey is just different.
So Terry, that was awesome. It was really good to learn more about a business that, inverted commas, I've never heard of, but I've never actually been in that production management market, although a few of my clients have. It was really good to hear more about your business, mate. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It was, as I mentioned before, it's something completely different for me.